I come from Ivanhoe Station. Like I said, I grew up there, and back in the late 70s, 79, towards the 80s, we were doing a job as stockmen, riding horses and mustering cattle. But then at the end of the year, there were times where we had to go out and, well, the manager used to order us and go out and do some spraying, something that we weren't aware of what we were using. And yeah, part of that spraying is our off-duty job, other than ringing, was to go out and spray Parkinsonia. And yeah, maybe because of the cattle maybe eating it or something, the leaves. But that was our main job, was to go out and use the spray the young Parkinsonia, and even the big one too. We used to go out and spray that. But yeah, and we weren't aware about a lot of the spray the stuff that we were using until back in the 90s, where there was a fellow that went to court about having problem with or symptom from using that spray, and I only realized then that that was something really dangerous that they were using, and we started to find out. Yeah, and the stuff that we were using, it was a red drum where we had to pour a bit on a lid and transfer that into a diesel. And then after that, we used to roll the diesel on the ground. I think the idea for that was to have the mixture done then. And then we used to load it on the back of a tray-back ute and go out and spray with cans. We used to carry cans on the back. We had no protective gear wear or anything like that, just normal shirt. And most of the time we used to have short sleeve, cut up here in the shoulder here. So, well, because the heat was so hot too around this part of the area. So we used to have short sleeve shirt on and short trousers. And maybe thongs sometimes, or sometimes bare feet we used to walk around. And just using that. And because some of us, well, I for one was a hard worker myself, we didn't want to give that to somebody else, young fellas maybe, or somebody weaker. That thing used to stay on our back, and we used to carry it around and do these things, spraying. Back was soaking, maybe, from the shirt, where it poured in the shirt. And most of the time we used to, sometimes when you get a lot of sweat coming down your face, sometimes you use your arm too to wipe your eyes, clear the sweat out of your forehead and things like that. So better swipe like that, this side. But not really knowing what we were doing to ourselves. But understanding now that, this stuff was something that was extremely dangerous. And we just starting to understand now. Well, I've known about it from the 90s when somebody put a complaint about it here in Kununurra. And yeah, something happened there and it stopped all of a sudden, but now that we know that they're second time around in, trying to put all this information through and try and get people and do the right thing. And, I think somewhere along the line we have to think about all our kids too, children and their children and their children. And, from understanding what this stuff was doing to people in Vietnam, we read about that stuff again. I did. And yeah, it's really devastating really to what is happening over there or what was happening at that time. So, personally, I think that's a really bad thing for even to talk about it right now. But I mean, I haven't told my family about this yet. They aren't aware of what's going on right now. And I'm too ashamed to tell them about this as well. And so they out there now. I got a big family now. I got 5 daughters, 2 sons. They got children, and their children got their children too, all the grandkids. So I got about 13 of them. Yeah, and I haven't told any one of them about this yet. I got one of the grandson now, the eldest grandson, who was about 21 now. He had his birthday last month. So he got diagnosed with hemophilia, and yeah, we don't know how he got that. Haven't got any idea at all where it came from. But I took him to Perth Hospital, 98 I think, or 97 maybe, end of that year. I took him to Perth Hospital, and I asked the doctor what was wrong with it, what are the symptoms he had, and they said that the mechanism inside his body wasn't functioning good. That's all the explanation they gave us. They didn't tell us anything else, where it might come from, or it's a common thing. It's just something that was inside his body, something wasn't working too good. There's something missing in his body, they said. And that's why he has to live with it now for all his life, rest of his life. And he's around us all the time. We have to keep careful watch over him, and we're even afraid to get him a job where they use mental things. So really scary in a way. But I haven't told people like him about these things that we were carrying around our back, and even in the wind. So sometime when we were spraying, the wind used to blow too. So I don't know if that had a big effect on us. I'm not really sure. But yeah, and as you can see, like I got my eyes now. I don't know if you can see it visible, but it's blurry. And I don't know how that came about. And I've got a dryness on the back of my shoulder here, right on the back here. Yeah, and it's like a numbness just around my back. And I kept asking kids, because I can't see on my back, but I can feel it, but I kept asking children, can you see what's on my back here? And they can't even really explain it to me. They just said, you got nothing wrong there, but it's a bit dry there. I don't know if there's hair growing there as well. So I don't know how that came about, but it may be something to do with this stuff that we were carrying around on our back, on the knapsack. We were at Ivanhoe Station, working for the parcel company called Hooker's Parcel Company. And, we don't know if they made an arrangement with the government about using some of that product for the station to use, but it's the same stuff, because that quarantine area is right on Ivanhoe Station, parcel lease. So it's just down the road, actually. And we ended up using it. We used to drive past and see in the quarantine area where the government workers were working, spraying all the birds and Pakistani and such. But we did know we'd end up using it as well. The stockman from Ivanhoe. And I know my cousin was with me. He was maybe 3 or 4 years younger than me. He passed away now. So something happened to him again, I don't know why. And then there was another fellow there where we had to, because Ivanhoe Station the quarantine area is based right on Ivanhoe Station parcel lease. They came around and got killers of us, which is cattle, beasts that got slaughtered. We cut it up and cut the meat out and have to give some of that to them. And that fella now that actually came out there that day, he's no longer with us. Now he's had a heart attack all of a sudden, and he was a fit person. He was actually a boxer. been to Melbourne trying to be a boxer and competed in competition where he wanted to strive and get the black belt. But yeah, and being a fit person and something terrible happened to him on short notice is something that's maybe related to some of these stuff that we and them were using at the same time, same stuff. There's others again, like, the Gerard are my in-laws, my wife's uncle. And, I had to talk about them in such a way, but I know that they lost their life as well. They were also working at using some of the stuff that we were using. And yeah, they're no longer with us anymore. Yeah, I heard something about that old fellow named Ambrose, where his missus went pale, I think, after all the clothing that maybe he was washing for him, and some of them stuff got spilled in their hand and arms, and yeah. It's unusual for an Aboriginal person to go pale, but it certainly happened with some of them. Some of the partners for the workers that were working in that area. That campsite is, was there, and yeah, I mean that's where people used to live, and visitors always often walk in and sit down with them too and have a smoke or something. I think family members, when they drive past as well, they used to drop in there and sit down, but no one didn't realize there's no indication of any kind of signage that would prevent people from going into camp as that, or what they were working on. It was just something like nothing was wrong with it, like it was just the water they were spraying. And later on in the 90s, well, I'm a hunter and I still go down and use spears. I make spears and I teach it back to my grandkids. So one of the trips I did with my children, we went out to the Ord River, and I went out and we speared a mullet. So probably would have been about this long, I think, this big. So that would have been a full-grown mullet. And once we got it out of the water, it had a sore. One would say the type of sore that human would have on the feet or somewhere, in the arm or leg after a cut. But it had that on the back of the fish. And I grew up on the Ord River at Ivanhoe. I grew up most of my life there as a hunter, walking that stream. We even camp out there. We've never ever seen a fish like that, or that sort of thing. So in the 90s onward, there were a lot of complaint about other people from Kununurra going into the river, and they were getting catfish out, barramundi, brim, black brim, and yeah, all kind of fish they were getting with a lot of those same kind of cuts on their skin, but and like sores, So yeah, something wrong with the water or something flowing through there. But maybe it come from all this stuff. I think the families of the people such as myself that were using this, there should be a list of family tree that government need to look at, or whoever responsible for this type of action should help the families of those that are affected by these things. And there may be different causes of how people are affected. I really would like, the Australian government really to acknowledge that people who are given us to use were something that we wasn't supposed to use at all. No notification. We didn't have the right equipment to use. No one didn't tell us anything about that. But they should acknowledge us, and we should be compensated for a lot of these things, because it's not something that might happen to us. some of these things might happen to our children or our children's children. And yeah, it could be a long-term illness that may affect our family in a big way.